labor, because there are people who came to me who don't understand. So the direct labor, always remember, you want the factory worker, not people working in the factory, the person actually making the product. He's part of the process, and usually the factory worker earns a wage, right? So when I do direct labor cost, I want the gross and I want the contribution, right? The gross will consist of my norm time and my overtime. So now if I look at his thing, he did it in a T account. You can't do it in a T account like this. But for a calculation, this is perfect. So how did he get the norm time? Am I right on your thing? You sure? Okay. If I look at the norm time, the first thing they say, the only thing they say, is that you should go look at question 4 below. And there they tell you it's 12 employees worked norm time, and still 12 worked overtime, right? They say number of normal working hours was 1,600, right? Then the number of overtime worked by each worker was 240. So now I know how many hours they've worked, but I still need to say how much did they earn per hour. And we know norm time was 60, overtime was 100. You will always see that overtime is actually more expensive. They'll be paid more because they work more than the 40 hours they're supposed to work. Okay. Now, next one. That 11520 is the contribution. If you look here, the UIF contribution of the factory workers. Okay, and then I get that. You guys shop. Lesedi? Shop. Where's Lesego? Where's Lesego?
Oh, it's history explained.
Okay, the history thing. Okay, let's go on. So, next they ask me to do the factory overheads. So I just want to explain to you again how this works. So, if I look at a manufacturing business, it's got 3 separate departments. And the 3 separate departments is the factory, the office, and the sales and distribution. Now the office is what I call admin. And the factory is factory overheads. So in other words, I want to split my expenses because I only want the expense that's pertaining to the product that I'm making to go into the factory expenses. I don't want to, because I don't want my cost price to be loaded with unnecessary costs, because what's happening then? I need to sell it then for more expensive, you see? And I have competitors, so I don't want to go too expensive, because then people aren't going to buy from me, they're going to buy from my competitor. So I want to split. So I pay, for instance, rent for the building. Right? I pay rent, but I only want to allocate the part that the factory use for the factory overheads, the part that the office use for the office to admin, the part that sales and distribution to sales and distribution. Okay, so if I read this, you will see they give you expenses. So the first expense that is always there is your consumable stores. So consumable stores is your cleaning material, your lubricants, like the oil that they use on the machinery. That is my basically stuff. Once you've used it, it's done. Okay. Now, for your consumables, you'll have an opening balance and you'll have a closing balance. Now, the opening balance and the closing balance, we both get the information from my stock balances. So if you go look at your stock balances, you'll see they will always give you direct material, work in progress, sometimes finished goods, and consumable stores. In this case, they didn't name it consumable stores, they called it factory indirect material. Okay, remember your material is divided into direct, which goes to work in process because it becomes part of the cost of production, and indirect, which goes to factory overheads, which goes to work in process. Can you see indirect? Okay, so I'm going to use my stock on hand for my opening and my closing balance. You guys, I'm saying this again, please make double sure about the years, ne? Because they can swap it. Actually, 9 out of 10 times it is swapped, where that would be 2009 and this would be 2008. So you have to make sure that you don't use the wrong openings and closings. Okay, so in this case my opening is 8-1 and my closing is 7-4. So meaning the start of the year I had stock left over from last year. At the end of the year I still didn't use everything. Then I go look, did I buy any consumables? They say nothing here. Do you see any consumables bought? Yes, there. You see? Direct, indirect material purchase 125, 900. Okay. Now, if I had 8-1, I bought 125, I have 7-4 left. How much did I use? 126, 600. That's how they get that one in factory overheads. Can you also see that even that which is used can be distributed between admin, sales and distribution and factory? They can do that as well. The thing that you need to understand is only that which is applicable on the factory goes to the factory overheads. So the next one, depreciation was given. Let's go through here. I see wages, factory foreman. The factory foreman has to go in, ne? And if he has a contribution, it must also go in, ne? So can you see the salary of the factory foreman? Ne? They took the gross and the contribution. Okay? Next one, I see commission to salespeople, nothing to do with me. Advertising, that sales and distribution. Ne? Nothing to do with the making of the product. Factory maintenance, yes, that goes in, 85. You don't have it. Can I put it in? Factory maintenance is 85,000. Okay. Then I see bad debts. That's not factory costs. Rent. Now, can you see the rent is allocated in proportion to the floor space used. So they're going to take that 133. They're going to times it with whatever the factory use divided by the total. So if I look here, can you see they say the factory uses 1,200 squares. The others each use 600. So can you see if I total this, it gives me 24. So if I calculate, I'm going to say 133 times 1,200 for the factory over 2,400 for the total. Is everybody sharp? Okay, so that means my rent, which you also don't have here. Is this the right one we're doing?
No, I was slow last week.
Okay, so my rent expense is going to be how much?
24,000.
Can't be 24,000. It's half of 133. So 133 divided by 2, 66. 500. Why are we talking? Is there something bothering you? Are you guys sure? Okay. Then I see bin stolen. That's got nothing to do with factory overheads. Factory water and electricity. Can you see? They tell me I must look at 6. So 6 say 15% goes to the office, 25% to sales and distribution. So if I add those two, can you see it gives you 40? So how much goes to the factory? 60. So I'm going to say that times 60%, and it's going to give me the 21,600. Okay? Okay? No. Okay? Is that the business uses water and electricity, and they're going to get one account from the municipality because they've got one, what do they call it, BD board, BB board, whatever. Okay. So now the bookkeeper itself is going to divide the total expense of water and electricity. He's going to allocate it according to who uses the most. So obviously the factory uses the most, but not everything. Okay? Admin use a little bit less because it's the computer and the lights and whatever. Maybe sales and distribution uses more water and electricity because they need to wash all the vans and they need to have conveyor belts for the packing of the goods, and I don't know. In this case they used more. So now the bookkeeper is going to decide how he's going to allocate it. Okay. And he decided from that total water and electricity account, 60% was used by the factory. Does that make sense? Okay. Next one, I see depreciation, which just goes in. Sundry admin doesn't go in, but sundry factory does go in. There's the sundry factory, and what was the other one? Depreciation. Okay. Depreciation. Now we just need to total. What do we get as the total? His total is now going to be wrong because he doesn't have those two.
620110.
Did you fix your...
No, I didn't make a mistake. I just read the wrong value.
Oh, okay.
620110.
Thank you, baby. You're not feeling good. Yeah, I can see. Is everybody fine? Is everybody fine? Okay. So, now if I go to work in process or progress, this format doesn't change, baby. So please have this format ready. So it's always the opening and the closing. So did they give me the opening and the closing? If I look here, they say I have to set up the work in progress T account. Now if I look, can you see they give me an opening balance and they give me a closing balance. So there's the opening, there's the closing. Okay? The raw material, the direct material, the factory overheads, it's all amounts that I transfer. I'm going to highlight for you. So the raw material, there it is, that 165. The direct labor, there it is, 195. Is it 195? 145. Okay? The factory overheads, it's the 620110. Okay? So, can you see? Everything there. So, now what do I need? I still need finished goods. How am I going to get finished goods? I'm going to balance. I've got everything on this side. I short one. So now I know. If I add this side, what do I get the total? What is the total here?
389 3230.
I know it's going to be the same on this side. 389, 3230. Okay? But this side only got 120. So it means 389 less 120 is going to give me the goods that I finished producing, which is what?
57366.
Okay. You guys sharp? Now they ask me, calculate the unit cost of production per plastic bin. Okay? So the unit cost per production for the plastic bins is, I'm going to take that finished goods. Okay? So I'm going to take the finished goods of 3772,630 and I'm going to divide it by the units that I produce, because remember now that is my cost of production. This is the cost that I paid for making the product. And how many products did I make? Do they tell me? Yes, they do. Where?
Number one information.
Number one. They say 58,000 bins. So if I divide that by 58,000 bins, I get the cost per unit, which is what?
No, but also here, they say sales of 220 per unit.
Yeah. Okay. So what he's talking about, he says, what about this sales? Now remember, that is the selling price. They are asking you here about the cost price, the cost of making the goods. Calculate the cost of production, meaning they want you to calculate the cost price. Yeah. We now know the selling price is 120, but what's the cost price? How much is the cost price? I can't hear. 650. 650 or just 50? Okay, that doesn't make sense.
65, just 65.
Yeah, because it can't be 650 rand. Because here they tell me that I'm selling it for 120 rand. Can you see, if you say it's 650 rand, we are making one huge loss. You see? So then you go back, you redo it, and you go make sure that you put in the right amount of zeros. Okay. So it cost me 65 rand per unit, and I sold it for 120 rand a unit. So I make a profit of what? 55.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody happy?